one of my favorite questions, especially for this region. Seen many startups grow here, become unicorns. But to get an understanding from a VC perspective on how this region has evolved to become a hub of startups, and perhaps also the influence of our neighboring countries like Saudi, who are also now coming up with their own unicorns. So some insights on that.
So I've been doing VC for the past, I think, 17 years or so since I moved here, basically. And I mean, the change especially since 2018, 2019 has been incredible. Really, the watershed moment was the Careem exit, which validated the model as a whole. And then on the back of that, launched hundreds of companies, founders from that. But others saw it, investors made money, other would-be founders saw that success and wanted to replicate it. And then you have this incredible sort of what I call like a Cambrian explosion, right, of life in the startup ecosystem. So I think that's that was kind of the watershed moment. So from there you see, funding going from anywhere per year in MENA from $400, $500 million a year to now it's in the range of 2.5 billion or so per year, even though it's dipped a bit, but it's still, many multiples from where it was just a few years ago. Equally, company formation, as you see per year, we see about 2,000 to 3,000 companies being formed in the region, whereas before, the entire regional ecosystem was maybe 100 companies in 2016, maybe something like that. So you do see that kind of exponential growth in the overall ecosystem, which has been super interesting. The reasons why, I think a number of things. A, the validation of the model from Careem. B, especially in the past 5-6 years, the liberalization of Saudi, both regulatory, social, economic, this kind of big push towards moving the economy from a basically state-led economy to a much more private and entrepreneurial and innovative-based economy, coupled with the opening up of kind of, the society and immigration. And like there's an overall openness. I think that's unleashed a huge force of innovation entrepreneurship across the region. And Saudi being has become really, only in the past 20, 30 years, the cultural, economic, and political center of the Arab world or the Middle East region.
Very much.
Before it used to be in the 70s like Egypt, but it sort of migrated to the GCC. And as goes Saudi, as goes the region. And I think you're seeing the effect of that to reverberate across the region as a whole. Obviously, UAE and Dubai function effectively as the entrepot through which all of this flows. So this kind of center point where it can capture this, because in a sense it's one of those cities similar to Hong Kong, Singapore, arguably the city of London, not London itself, that are this kind of melting pots of the wider kind of regions in which they operate. So that's why I think you're seeing all this activity. There are other kind of macro reasons. One of the few places in the world where you have positive fertility rates left in the world, right? You have demographic growth. You do also have positive economic growth. We hear a lot about MENA, the Middle East generally, about the issues with so the geopolitical environment, etc. But I think if you look at the underlying data, I think you see consistent economic growth for many years. Obviously, ups and downs, not just in the GCC, but across the region as a whole. So I think the tailwinds are quite positive, and I can go on forever on this, but I think it looks very, very, very going in the right direction.
Yeah, and when we do talk about growth and going in the right direction, it's hard to ignore Saudi. Obviously, it looks like it's outpacing the UAE currently, and you've just mentioned that it's the epicenter of the Arab world. What do you sort of boil that down to, would you say, that growth in the recent years?
So I think, as I kind of started off previously, I think firstly it is this liberalization of the economy overall. So you have a concerted effort at deregulating parts of the economy. You see it in different segments. So you look at fintech, the regulator there, SEMA, is, I would say, one of the most progressive regulators in the region, if not the world, in terms of attracting and pushing for kind of the opening up of different the companies setting up there and getting regulated there. Even at the more kind of macro level, the ability to set up a foreign business there has gotten much easier. The ability to attract talent through visas, etc., has gotten a lot easier. You do see how there has been a huge concerted effort to deepen and activate public markets there, in Tadawul, and the capital public markets, that is. So with the listing of Aramco there, and the really big push by the CMA to bring traditional family-owned businesses to list some of their assets, I think you're seeing that kind of movement push through. Again, like also a little bit of social easing, etc.
Yes.
That really helps drive innovative thought, innovative thinking, entrepreneurial thought, and it's all kind of, it's incredible. It's an incredible unleashing of energy that's been pent up, right? And now it's just kind of coming through.
Sense.
It's one of the youngest populations in the region.
Yes.
And these are all kind of digitally native, like internet consumers, basically, and they're hungry to transact online, but also build. So I think that's what makes it super interesting. I wouldn't frame it as like as a comparison to the UAE, only because I think, with notable big exceptions, generally you want to look at, from a startup point of view, and putting my VC hat on, you want to look at companies that transcend those two major economies, and if they can add Egypt, even better, or other economies, even better. So we look at the region a little bit more as an economic bloc per se, together. And the best companies are ones that are able to kind of aggregate multiple, like a multitude of these markets. There are great exceptions to this. We can build country only, more in Saudi than the UAE, just because of the size of the economy is larger. So I think, but overall, I think what's good here can be good there. So I think overall, I don't see it at all as zero sum, and I see it much more as a creative process to both.
Excellent. Right. And also with my visits to Saudi, I understood the culture more. Being a Dubai kid, I had probably had a blind spot with what Saudi was, and it's incredible to know that the amount of local founders, because over here perhaps it's mainly that I've seen expat driven over there, local founders, and even the brands. So I came across a food tech company, Hunger Station, apparently unicorn. It's competing with the likes of Careem, and probably has a head start
bigger,
over them.
I think.
I think it's bigger as well.
Wouldn't want to. Compare my former portfolio company, but I do believe it's larger. And then there's Jahiz, who's also one of the most profitable food tech, as in like delivery food tech businesses on the planet, right?
Absolutely, and this kind of opened my eyes that they aren't in UAE. So Careem had to move to Saudi and capture that market. So apart from Saudi having that perception of having the capital, but currently now you see that even unicorns are coming up every year, or probably some startups are even listing on probably with IPOs. So
I think there's going to be many, like in the next year or two, I expect another 10. Well, let me not predict too much, but I think within the next couple of years, you'll see 10 listings between the main market, Tadawul, and the alternative market within the broad tech sphere. I can see that happening, unless there's a big change in the market conditions.
So if we had to, probably we won't want to compare countries, but as a VC, perhaps, let's say you've been in this space for so long, do you see the shift to move towards Saudi, where there are more entrepreneurs coming in from there, and their idea can cater to a larger population, and then they can probably move to Dubai and just have, let's say, a checklist of the country that I'm going in, as an opportunity for exits in the future, because now Saudi has that population as the critical mass is already there. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that's I mean, just to go back into ancient history, like I want to say in 2018, when I was looking at companies, I mean, there was virtually no Saudi companies. There's barely, like maybe 5, 10 a year, maybe. I think you can see the huge shift even by the end of that year. The number of companies formed that have really gone through the roof. I would say now Saudi founders are in a unique position to dominate their local market and then grow from there. There aren't many that have done it yet, because there's so much to conquer in Saudi, and the entire ecosystem is nascent. It's still early, but you're starting to see ones break through. So companies like Foodex, for example, have gone a bit more regional, and I'm excited to see more and more go down that path. I expect more and more to go there, because it's only natural to expand kind of beyond your border. But but it's a bit delayed compared to UAE into Saudi because the local market is so deep,
Yes.
particularly in consumer internet. So you can kind of expand outwards once you've conquered your market a bit more. It's also not as natural for Saudi founders to expand outside of Saudi. Their mode of thinking is more local.
Right.
But I think that's changing and evolving as the ecosystem there matures as a whole. And we're seeing it. It's all new. It's all like,
Matter of time.
6-7 years old.
Yeah.